Hello everyone, Starltros here coming back with some news and updates on FFBE. Today is a little bit of a weird, well not weird, but different kind of video. I'm just going to go through the units because there's a whole update coming and there's so much stuff to cover. I figured I'd just do it in two parts so I can, lull you to sleep in 2 different days. So I'm just going to do a video here myself covering all the units. I'm going to leave the events and any other information for a second video, which I'm going to do with a guest tomorrow. So look forward to that. Um, so let's get right into it because there is a lot to cover. We do have two different banners coming here. So the first banner is going to be coming right after maintenance, and the other one's going to be coming, I think, on the 31st of December or maybe January 1st, anyway, and a couple of days after this one. So the first banner I'm covering, well, I should do them in order. So the first banner that's coming is for a collab with some old manga from the 80s called, I think, like, I don't remember, Papua something. Anyway, so Papua is the unit, and I'm really not a fan of his design. I know it's an old unit, like not an old unit, but an old character from old manga, and they really kept, his look uh, from the manga itself. Let me see if I can have a visual somewhere. Yeah, right here. You see this little guy. So I kind of feel like they should have maybe adapted him a little bit to look like, I don't know, maybe more modern or something. I don't know, but it must be just me. Anyway, so his kit, to not linger too much on his looks, he is actually, and I guess I'm gonna say unfortunately because it's a collab, and we don't like units being stuck behind collabs. He's pretty good. So his TMR is an accessory for 89 attack and 30% attack, HP, and MP as well. So that's very good. Sometimes you're not gonna have enough attack percentage on your unit, so you can have this to fill it up while still being pretty good in terms of base attack. I can give some MP as well because sometimes we really need to get more MP because of those pesky MP drains. Um, and yeah, and then in his STMR, and I just noticed that usually I cover the categories first, but I'm doing it differently today because why not? And his STMR is 70% attack, 60% to water, wind, and earth resist, and 100% either dual wield or double hand equipment stats. So that's pretty good. Now let's go to his categories before I forget. He is water, wind, and earth, so three elements from his STMR's resist. He's also a breaker. He's got another world because it's a collab. He's got the gathering because it's getting more popular, I guess, and the guardians. Um, his vision card. Now, finally, we get to cover a vision card. That's been a long time since we actually talked about one, but his is pretty good. He's got 170 attack and defense on it. It is for gathering units, where it's going to give some attack and defense as well, 100% LB damage, and also flat attack and defense by 500. So feels a little bit like the Water Dragon card, but for gathering units. It's been a while since we've got I'm gonna say such a good card, and I'm doing air quotes here because it's not that great, but still, for any physical attacker, you can get them. Give them a little bit more survivability with the extra defense. That's pretty good. And then his EX ability, if you get him to EX3, is a 50% overkiller for insects. Now for his kit, and you're gonna notice the new trend here. Um, just well for him, just like Hyo had last week, that he has a lot of those passive things for the LB. Um, Also, first he has a unit specific equipment. He's got clothes for 147 attack. Also, defense, spirit, and HP and MP by 30%, and flat attack by 500. So that's pretty good for him. It's only equipable for him. So if you wanted to get that sweet 30% MP, defense, spirit, and HP for somebody else, you can't. It's only for him. Now for his actual kit, he is a very selfish unit, but also a very efficient unit in terms of the damage he can deal. At EX1, he's going to get everything he can get in terms of active abilities. So he's going to get the 500% LB buff, and he's also going to get a 150% wind amplify for the entire team. That's the only thing that's not selfish about him. You'll see when we look at the rest. But 150 is kind of outclassed by today's standards anyway. Um, but it's the first of its kind, so that's pretty good, I guess. For the rest of his kit, he has the usual as everyone. He cannot multicast his big chaining ability, which we're going to look at in a second. He has a 90% defense and spirit break. He has a 600% stat buff for himself, as I said, selfish unit. He does have something here to buff his water, wind, and earth damage by 100%. A little bit of stat buff that's not really relevant, and the modifier buff for his chaining ability. With his EX1 modifier, it brings it to a total of 10,300 times modifier. So it's pretty viable, pretty good. But his LB is where the real damage is at. He also has a 50% fist imperil and a 180% imperil to all his elements, so water, wind, and earth. Well, I said he was pretty selfish. Not that badly selfish. Wow. Well, serves me right for only looking at the unit's kit once before going to record my video. Then he has Aven and Human Killer, 160% for the entire team, so that's not so bad. I guess it's only because of that 600% buff that's only for himself, whereas like literally everybody else that's had a 600% buff was for himself and a friend. Maybe he has no friends. I don't know. I don't know anything about the manga. He also has an ability here for a little quirky counter thing, where it's going to increase his counter ability by 400 times modifier. And he can counter like damage taken by literally anyone, as long as it's a physical attack. He can counter like 3 times. Nothing too crazy, but that could be something to help fill out his LB because his attack fills a little bit of LB. So it's not really for the damage, more for probably filling out your LB a little bit more. He has a perfect cleanse for your team every 3 turns on cooldown. He can give a skill to an ally. We're going to look at that skill a little later. And he also has a cooldown skill here for something that will cast after 2 turns. So be careful. You need to cast this, and then 2 turns later, it's going to auto cast all this. So if you cast it on turn 1, it's going to cast on turn 3. So it's a 200% Omni Killer on himself, 400% stat buff, and 70% mitigation, and fill 30%, not 30%, but just 30 LB fill. That's one other thing I said that was selfish when I looked at his skit at first. So that's pretty good. It's just you have to make sure to time it well for when you want to burst. Now, if we go look at his passive abilities, at EX1, he gets a passive ability here that gets cast at the start of battle, Revival or Brave Shift. EX2, he gets another different one, and EX3, he gets another different one. You know the drill. If you've seen Hyo's kit, it's the same thing. They're just named differently because it's a collab unit, so they want to add a little bit of flavor in there. So we're going to look at them in a second. Well, I guess no, they're different than Hyo's, which we're going to see in a second anyway. In terms of the rest, he is a dual wielding unit. He has the usual 5 turns LB buff. He does have this mysterious ability here, LB gauge boost. I have no idea what that is. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a confirmation on what that was, but we're going to see that in a couple units kit along the way today. So probably we're going to find out after maintenance what that actually does. So stay tuned. We're probably going to talk about it tomorrow. He has a couple of other auto cast at the start of battle in terms of abilities. Now, so this one is the one he gets at EX1. So at EX1, his LB modifier goes up by 100 for the entire fight. If he dies, it comes back. At EX2, he gets an extra 200. At EX3, another extra 200 for a total of 500 times my extra modifier. And we're also this extra 100, so 600 for the first 5 turns, plus the 120 from the cooldown ability. So that is 720 we will need to add to his modifier at the bottom of it all. This is the skill he can give to a friend. He can't give it to himself. It has to be to a friend. And it's for a single use. It can't be multicast or anything. So if you want to give that to a support unit, well, it increases all the break resistance for 2 turns. Stat buff 300% to everyone for 2 turns. Gives 500 MP to everyone at the cost of 180, so it's not free, unfortunately. And also, it increases everyone's LB gauge by 20. Um, it's cute, but not that great, I would say. Oh, but I guess you can multicast and give it to multiple people if you want. If you wanted to use this as a as an LB fill, but why would you? Then he has this that he casts at the start of the battle, so that's 100% Omni Killer on himself, 300% attack buff, and 200% LB buff as well. And this one as well that he casts at the beginning of the fight, which is the usual 87 defense break to everyone because he is a breaker, and 140% in peril to all elements. And he also restores 80% of HP and MP to himself at the beginning of a battle. So I guess if you do a multi-wave battle and he was hurting at the like in the last fight, then he's gonna recover a little bit when he's going into the next one. Now his leader skill is 1500 attack and magic to all wind units. So the wind meta is upon us. Sadly, no Barts inside. Sorry, Sinzar, it's not coming just yet. Just yet. He is an overdrive unit, so his overdrive is pretty stacked in terms of what it does, and you're going to see that across the units that we're going to be looking at today. The overdrives are pushing it again. He does basically every single type of overdrive we have seen, just all rolled up in one. So he's got a 200% stat buff for all wind units. So obviously, wind isn't that great a category right now. It's going to grow bigger with the rest of the units we're going to look at now. But it's still not the best element. But you could bring someone that has the wind tag, and then you can still use another element if they have another element that they share. Especially since this one, his LB is non-elemental. We're going to look at that in a second. He also has an increase damage, like a damage amplify by 20% for all wind allies as well. 150 LB damage for them, and also just like Ultimate Rain, and I think Squall as well. The it's the ally area. I guess I guess it might just be the I think it's the general. It's the middle field. Like Rain, I think it's just that the wiki's not parsing it properly. So if an extra 40% like damage amplify field for wind units, so that's pretty strong. And well, like the numbers aren't crazy, but having all of this in a single unit, if you're using an entire wind team or an entire team that has the wind tag, extremely strong. So as much as I don't like his design, I think his kit speaks for itself. And then if we go look at the LB, then he does a bunch of stuff that we don't care about. And then at the very end, it's without any buffs, it's 1480. But if you add everything, that was 720. It brings it to 2200 times modifier. It's not a chaining. It's not a chaining LB, so it's just the 5 hits. Those weird ones that you need to learn the timing of. But the damage of it is just leaps and bounds over everybody else. If you have him at EX3, obviously, because at EX1, you remove 400 out of that, so it'll be 1800. Then 2000 times at EX2 and 2200 at EX3. So just like you're incentivized to go for EX3 as fast as you can if you want to get the unit full potential. Not a fan of that because they're really like pushing you to pull even more and more and more. With the speed of power creep, I feel like it's not really worth it. Like I haven't gotten any of the newer NV Plus at EX3 yet to get, say, one of those overkiller on any of them. So I I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. It's it's cool that we're pushing the envelope of strength a little further, especially with some harder trials that we've had recently. But not a fan of it. I guess we'll see how it all develops. Maybe they're gonna flatten a bit the curve of power creep after that. But considering Hyo just before him he had like 1900 times, and now we're pushing 2200. But it's a collab, so we don't really know what direction they're going. It's a bit wild right now. So that was Papua, the little ugly dude from the collab. Now his friend Shintaro is the more regular looking dude that was on the banner with him. Another pretty good unit, I would say. So his TMR is an accessory again with 86 attack and 50% human killer. His STMR is close for 161 attack, beast and aquatic killer by 50%, and the usual a flat attack for himself. His categories are lightning, fire, and wind. We're going to keep going with the wind. Obviously, another world, gathering, elite soldiers as well, and transcendent. His vision card is the same as Papua, so it's an interesting vision card. His EX3 ability is a 50% overkiller for humans. And then when we go look at his kit, he gets at EX1 the 500% LB damage buff, and then he gets a 200% fire, lightning, and wind, so all three of his elements amplify for himself and a friend. And he also gets at EX2 a 300% lightning and wind, so he drops fire for no reason for himself only, so 300% amplified. Now the rest of his kit, the usual. He has, however, here a field for 100% to fire, lightning, and wind, so 3 elements by 100%. And lightning is covered in there, fire is covered in there. Well, and wind is added because we're pushing the wind meta, so we no longer need Val, who was a collab unit as well, and we no longer need um, what's his name, Ashal, who's not a collab unit. So if you don't have Val, this one can cover for the fire with the 100% amplify. Very, very good. He has the 600% stat buff for himself and a friend. He's not a selfish little dude like the other. His chaining ability is slightly stronger. It's a bolting strike instead of being AMOE like Papua. Or should I say Papua? Um, anyway, it's slightly stronger because of his EX1 buff. Sorry, yeah, EX buff for it. EX1 buff for it. It's 1400 times, bringing it to a total of 10,600 times. So slightly stronger. Um, then for the rest, he has also a little flavor here. In case you don't have an imperil field, or if the boss, the boss you're fighting is a pesky boss that keeps applying other fields, and you just want to remove it, he has an on-demand all element imperil field, which is only for one turn. So it's literally just to remove an enemy field, to like say the enemy would buff his resistance or his stats, you remove that, then he's right there for you. Um, or if you really want to use that on a burst turn because it's only one turn, by all means. But I'm pretty sure you could deal better damage than what that would actually give. Just a 20% of peril is not great. He also has an ability to restore some HP and MP to himself and fill his LB gauge along the way. He has lightning, water, and wind resistance by 80% for everyone. So I'm pretty happy that a lot of units have those things. Because it kind of makes it more flexible when you're trying to gear units and you're like, oh, I need to put, say, Leviathan on this one because I need 80% from Bar Waterga. Well, you don't need to think about that anymore because some units will have the elements you're trying to mitigate. He also has a 30% beast and aquatic mitigation only for himself. He can also be a nice guy and tell the enemies to attack somebody else, making somebody else provoke for 1 turn, giving them a little bit of stat buff and 50% mitigation. It's only for 1 turn, so if something's coming and you want to provoke for a specific attack on something like a status ailment or whatever, you can point on that enemy, point to that enemy, and there you go. He has a 50% fist imperil as well, just like Papua, and he has 160% aquatic and human killer for the entire team. For the rest of his kit, as I told you, we're going to see this on everyone from now on, I'm pretty sure. So EX1, he's got the first version, EX2 the second, EX3 the third. The rest of his passive abilities, nothing really to talk about. He's a dual wielder as well. So he has, the usual ones, the same that Papua has. So that's 325 for the first 5 turns. And so 445 if you add the cooldown modifier. His attack can also steal items if ever you're into that sometimes. His leader skill is 1500% attack and magic to elite soldiers and lightning, or elite soldiers and fire. Um, so no wind there. So if you're using wind, he's not going to be your leader. You need to have Papua. That's right, Papua. His overdrive skill is a little more simple. I'd say 300% stat buff, which is pretty good for elite soldiers, and also a 50% um, field increase, like Ultimate Rain, for 50% for the elite soldiers as well. So now that more and more units have those, you'll have to be careful in the orders you're using your overdrives to make sure you're not stacking the wrong one with the middle field and have the one that's going to be best for your entire team. So be mindful of that when you're using all the ODs, because sometimes I know like we're gonna go burst and you're like, okay, activate overdrive, 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 and like everyone's activated, and you're like, yep, now it's fine. Well, now it might not be fine anymore if you activate them all just like liberally like this. You will need to think about the order in which you're doing it, or if you're doing it at all. And his LB is a multi-element LB, so you can choose either wind, fire, or lightning. Obviously, it's 3 elements, and it hits for a 1725. Um, so he is significantly weaker than Papua, but still, that's higher than most units before. So 1725 for him for the first 5 turns. Also he's a chainer, so that's pretty nice. Now, um, if we go look, I guess, yeah, we're gonna go look at the other banner now. So the banner is coming, I think, December 31st or January 1st. Anyway, the next banner we're getting, which is an FF7 banner. Yay, another one again. Like we haven't had 1,000 of those. I know it's popular, but like there's other games. Please, Alan, remember. Anyway, Cloud and Zack, a tag unit, and their TMR is, kind of whatever. It's just a materia for some 50% attack and 50% double hand. Their STMR is, who would have known? Another Buster Sword. They can finally share it this time, I guess. They're no longer competing for it like the old Zack and the old Cloud were. Well, not like the old Cloud, not the previous Cloud. So it's a Buster Sword with 252 attack, and it's also giving Demon and Human Killer by 75%. Their categories are lightning, fire, water, the usual for the previous cloud, but they're adding wind because Zack has wind? Question mark. Anywho, the rest of the categories are FF7, Rebellion, obviously, Guardians, Elite Soldiers, Saviors, Swordmasters, and Transcendent. I don't think the previous cloud was Transcendent, was he? Um, anyway, there it is. Their vision card it's a bad vision card. So back to something we're not going to talk about. And their EX ability is a 50% stone overkiller. Now for the kit. What they have is at EX1, the 500% LB damage. At and also 150% amplify for lightning for the entire team. And then at EX2 is where the real good stuff is at. A 250 imperil for fire and lightning, so let's forget about water and wind over here. And also a 300% amplify only for themselves for fire, lightning, water, and wind. So all elements at least are encapsulated in this. For the rest of the kit, there is a barrier here, same thing that Zach had before. So the 10,000 HP barrier and 50% mitigation. I think Zach was only for himself though. This is for everyone. I might be wrong. Now, also they have a perfect dispel. This is not on demand. This is a cooldown ability. Now they had, there's two units, so obviously they're going to be a tag unit. They're going to be tag chaining on some stuff. So they have a tag chain here, um, and another tag chain there. But this one is the main one because there is a buff here to the ability. It can be multicasted, and you have a quad cast on it. So if you wanted to use this ability, that would be something like, wait, well, that's 2450. So that's 490. So that's 9800 times modifier for this when you quadcast it, and it is a tag chain, so 32 hits, and you don't need to, like try to fit it in a chain because it's a quadcast and nobody else quadcasts AMOE. Now they are self-sufficient. Also, their ability here to give the ability modifier for the chain gives 100% Omni Killer to themselves and also a 400% stat buff. They do have the 600% stat buff for themselves and a friend. Their imbues. They also have this pretty stacked ability here, which is combining, I guess, the old cooldown, the cooldowns from the old cloud, but it just doesn't break the enemy stats. So 160% imperil to fire, lightning, water, and wind, and amplify by 100% for all allies for fire, lightning, water, and wind. Imperil field for the elements. I'm going to repeat them again. 40%. And a 50% amplify for the team to those 4 elements as well. So pretty stacked here. This is a 6-turn cooldown. This is a 5-turn field. So there's going to be 1 turn downtime on it. Sorry, but it's not like the best field out there. Could be good in some limited content. Wow, content. Okay. I'm having a mouthful moment. Limited content. Otherwise, you're gonna have something else better, so you might as well use this to clear the boss's field or something. He also had, well, they also have. Sorry, I'm using the wrong pronouns. What am I doing? Um, so a 200% Omni Killer for themselves and a friend on an 8-turn cooldown. It's only for 3 turns, so you're gonna want to use that like 2 turns before the burst or something, and that's gonna be it. But still pretty good. Having more Omni Killer sources is pretty nice because it saves you some headaches when you're team building for a boss or for multiple bosses when you're going in a multi-wave fight. In terms of the passive abilities, well, you know the drill by now. So it's 75, I don't know, 50, 75, 100 here. So EX 1, 2, 3. The rest of the kit, well, they do have Omni Killer um, here by 100%. They do have here, like once again, boost skill, LB gauge, boost HP, barrier boost. I don't know what that means. So we'll see tomorrow or when we open the game and we use the units in a couple of days. Also has 2 more abilities that are auto casted here we can look at. Also some chain speed, just low chain speed 100 times, but still it's nice. And also 5 times guts, which is pretty nice on a DPS unit. So if we go look, well, this is the usual. Oh yeah, this is the usual break. 87% to defense for all enemies, and also 145 imperil for all 4 elements, and also the 300% stat buff for everyone, and 200% LB buff for everyone as well. So if you want to do, some turn one clears, there's a little bit of buffing coming from them. They do have Entondaga for the team, and they are a leader for lightning allies by 1500 for attack and magic. They have an overdrive, and their overdrive is once again a little bit doing a lot. So it's for rebellion units. It's 15% category damage amplify, 200% LB damage buff, and 50% general field in the middle. So once again, as I said, be careful not to overlap them. Make sure you're using the right one last to keep the good field in the middle. Their LB is a tag chain. It is non-elemental as well. It breaks attack and magic by 85%, breaks defense and spirit by 89%. It also imperils Greatsword by 60%, so it's very good on themselves. They don't need a lot of friends for that. And if we add everything together, I need to go back to look because I don't remember. So that's 275, 300. Okay, 445, sorry. Yeah. So 445 means this is 1725. So the same as Shintaro, but it is a tag chain for 48 hits. So that's extremely good. It's almost half of your chain score count for Dark Visions. That's extremely good for all they do as well on top of it. So really, really good. I am loving this. As much as I hate to have yet another FF7 banner. I guess it makes sense because Rebirth is coming out on PC in just about a month. I haven't played Rebirth yet because I was waiting for the PC release. I'm pretty excited to try it, even though I'm not that much of an FF7 fan. When there's a good FF game that comes out, I'm excited to jump on it. Now we can go look at the second to last unit. No, no, sorry. Well, the other unit, the other unit on the banner. So it is well, they translated to final Cetra Aerith, but I'm pretty sure it would rather be last. Yeah, last Cetra Aerith. Anyway, so her TMR is a rod for 206 magic, and also 50% machine and plant killer, and it gives her 1000 magic. So I think you're not gonna have her competing with other people for the Dark Visions rod, so that's pretty good. Her STMR, pretty interesting here. We're finally getting the magic version of the previous Cloud's STMR. So 70% magic and 100% chain cap modifier. Sorry, chain modifier cap. So very, very good. And then we finally have something that can give some magic on it. Her categories are light, lightning, and wind once again, because this is totally a wind patch. And she's also Rebellion, Guardians, and Flowers of the Battlefield. She's a little bit more limited in terms of categories, sadly, but it's all right. Her card, meh, whatever, but it's magic and spirit at least, so there's a little bit of redeeming feature on it if ever you wanted to build someone with a little less magic as a trade-off for a little bit more resistance for magic with more spirit. Her EX3 ability is a 50% machine overkiller. And at this point, I think we've rotated through all the killers a couple of times already, so they're coming back. Yay! Now her kit. So at EX1, she gets the LB damage buff. At EX2, she gets the good stuff. So she gets wind and light amplify for herself 300%. Lightning is not following there. And also for herself and a friend, she's getting 200% lightning, wind, and light amplify. So there, all three elements are included. The rest of her kit, she does have this like her old Neovision unit, like the first Neovision Aerith. This thing that cures all status ailments when you cast it, and auto casts it as well next turn, so a little bit of healing, and also removes all status ailments. So you're always, if ever you want to not gear your entire team for status ailment resist, and you're using Aerith, make sure that at least she is resisting the status ailments. And remember that this does not include stop, charm, zombie, or death, obviously, because death isn't an ailment. She has triple and quad cast like all mages. She has a cooldown ability here to unlock and boost chaining abilities. Um, it's not as strong as the physical chaining that we've seen earlier, but we can look. I think that's 4,500 plus well 5,500. Okay, and where are they? Just doing it now. Well, that's 9,100 times, so not so bad. Um, but yeah, it's a quadcast Chaos Wave Awaken chain, and it's not tag chaining, so she needs a friend to to chain with. And so it's yeah, it's not as strong as others, um, but she's got some chain. Now she has a field for lightning and wind, but not light. Oh wow, that's so clunky. So she self-amplifies wind and light by 300%, but she does not support light with her field. Oh my god, what are they doing sometimes? I wonder. So 100% amplify for lightning and wind because, that's what they're doing. She has a 500% stat buff to all allies, so that's not quite the 600%. But at least it's reaching everyone. She has a 160% killer, like the other version had, the other Cetra Aerith, to human and machine. Then she has this, the same that as the first Envy Aerith had. So she deals a little bit of damage to herself, but she revives everyone, and she heals everyone back to full if they were still alive. Cures all the status ailments, removes all debuffs, but for everyone except herself. So she's not selfish, she is selfless. And even then as well, she has a cooldown to fill the LB gauge 60 to everyone except herself because it costs her LB gauge to use. So once again, what a selfless girl. She has an ability here, kind of like a Celeste-like ability. Unfortunately, it doesn't include the general mitigation. So it's a 10,000 HP bearer to everyone, and then physical and magic mitigation by 75%. Oh, there you go. That's where she includes other elements. So she has a on-demand field for fire, lightning, water, wind, and light. So there you go, you get your light at 70% only, sadly. So it's only a 70% for this one. She has an ability here. So what it says grand tag team attack for specific abilities for 2 turns to 1 ally. Um, I've asked, so apparently what this means is basically a unit like the unit on which she casts this will like all their abilities, not the LB, but all their abilities will become a tag chain. So that's pretty handy. Also very unique. That's pretty new. You'll have to see it. And lastly, she has a 50% imperil for staffs and rods. Um, it's not quite the 60% we love, but still, that's probably the highest staff imperil we have. So there's that. Now, for the first time in history, for now anyway, uh, she's getting magic autocast LB boost. She doesn't have the 5 turn, like the first 5 turn thingy that all the physical ones have been having for years now, but she's got the newer ones. So at EX1, 50%, EX2, 75, EX3, 100. And then for the rest, what else does she have? Nothing that's really interesting to mention. So this is why do I blank on it all the time? That's 225 plus the ability says 345. So that's a little bit lower than the physical ones because she doesn't have the first 5 turns, but that's still a lot higher than any other mages before in terms of those buffs because she's the first one to get them. So that's 345. And if we go look at, sorry, I'm just going to go and jump on it before I forget. So 345 makes it 1,595 times. So it's still the highest mage LB out there, but it feels a lot lower than the physicals we've been having with, say, Hyo and Papua earlier. She's also a multi-element user, so she can do lightning, light, and wind with her LB. Now, if we go back up, she has Anthondaga and Aeroga and Lightga, so it's pretty nice. She can imbue all her elements. I love that. Also, oh, I guess it's worth mentioning that her chaining abilities also fill her LB gauge a little bit. Um, but yeah, that's just 20. I guess you need to do it 3 times before you can LB again. Her leader skill is 1500 attack and magic for rebellion units. Um, and her overdrive is a 500% stat buff for all rebellion units. So she's going to be one of those that you are going to bring on a party because of the sheer strength of this buff over all the others that we have. But you need to have, all the other categories to stack up on top of it. But still very, very good in terms of increase in not leader skills, but overdrive coverage. Now, one other thing that they're going to be bringing, I don't know if it's going to be for like right after maintenance or after the FF7 banner drops. So look out for that whenever that comes. It could be either then, right at the after maintenance, or later. It's Star Traveler Tifa, so NV plus Tifa, not the NV plus Awaken Tifa, just the regular NV plus Tifa. She's getting crowns, so her crowns are giving her, with the crown stage, she will get, sorry, where is it? Here. The crown stage will allow her to cast a 200% amplify for herself and a friend. So that's pretty good because, like her main element is water after all. And her crowns will be for a single ability here. This one, so it gives her a little bit more static attack, and it also autocasts this at the beginning of the fight. When she revives and Brave Shift, rings a bell. Let's go see what it does. So, here we go. So what it does is a 800 times modifier for her LB. So she has this plus that. So the first 5 turn, it's going to be 900 times plus the modifier buff she can cast at 120. So with the cooldown, so that's 1020 times extra modifier from her base LB, which brings her to 1800 times. So she is, pretty strong now, stronger than the other meta units before. Well, before Hyo came around anyway. And she has some pretty nice categories to go with, considering she is a Guardian, she is a Rebellion unit, which are pretty popular categories. Sadly, she's not an Elite Soldier, which would have been pretty neat, considering I think they have a lot of light units in there to go with her. But, pretty strong nonetheless. And now, last but not least, to wrap up this very long video, we have the EX abilities that they're bringing for the Lunar New Year units that we had a couple years back. Remember all those fond memories you have of using Rain, Warrior's Prayer for Dark Visions, or Poppy, oops, sorry, Poppy, or Leftia, all those units we've never used a single time in our careers. Well, you're never going to use them anyway, even still, because their EX abilities are absolute garbage. So what they're giving them is they're all getting a field for their element by 70% amplify. Yay, neat. They're getting some LB modifier for rain. The whole thing with the passive here makes his entire LB a whopping 850 times. Crazy, right? Like, that's barely beating the base LB for Star Traveler Tifa. Actually, that's not even beating it, because if she used, like, if you don't get the crowns for her, she still had the 120 plus the 100 times as the first 5 turns, so she was still stronger. So that's absolute garbage. Same goes for Poppy. So Poppy was a wind unit. What does she get? She gets actually, she doesn't get a wind field. Yeah, she was shafted even stronger than the others. Sorry, it's just ironic. So her modifier goes to, well, we got 150 here, and we got the buff from this one here. So that is 325. So a whopping 625. Get ready to. Oh no, that's not true. She has that as well. Oh, well, that's still, it's better than Rain, but still weak. Oh wait, did Rain have? Oh, well, I missed something. It's still pretty weak. Because of the two components. If you go against Beast, it would have been stronger. But that still adds what 350, no, 450. So it's, well, 1300 times not that bad, I guess. Whatever. And for her, it would be like 950 times. No, still weak. It's still weak. And Leftia, the same as well. But she does get an Earth field at least. And then the ability here. Also, the ability gives some extra modifier to their chaining, like Stonega, Quake, and for Poppy it was Tornado and Aeroga. But it's still not enough to be any kind of relevant. And her is the same modifier as Leftia, sorry, Poppy. So like 925 and 50. Still, absolute garbage units. You're never going to use them as you never used them before. Um, so yeah, that was it for the banners coverage, all the unit coverage. Anyway, there is a lot of events that will be popping. I will not cover those in this video. I will cover them tomorrow with Gail. That's going to be joining me. Um, so yeah, we're gonna do another video tomorrow where we're just gonna talk a little bit. Like I'm gonna let him let us know his thoughts on the units. Maybe we can meme a little bit on Leftia, Rain, and Poppy some more because because they're laughable. And then we're gonna talk about the events that are coming in the next couple of days. So thank you very much for joining, and see you tomorrow. Bye.